guys, it's Nico from Steel City Vintage, and before we get into today's video, we'll do a quick wrist check. Appropriately, I am wearing the watch that we're going to be talking about today, the Cartier Tank Louis, and we'll get into the video and talk about why this one is pretty special. Pre and post 1970 are pretty drastic. It's completely black and white. Pre 1970s, it was very limited production numbers, and they really ramped that up post 1970. From 1919 to 1969, a 50-year span, there were less than 6,000 watches produced by Cartier in all three houses combined. To give you a frame of reference, if you were to equate that over that 50-year time, that means that they were averaging less than 145 watches per year. Cartier was the epitome of exclusive luxury well before that ever became, a business model. There were years that they were producing 6 watches total for the entire year, and that's not just an outlier. I mean, you can go back and look at production numbers, and there were many years that they produced less than 10 watches a year. And this is pretty significant to note because even way back then, Cartier was a world-renowned luxury brand. I mean, royalty had already designated them the king of jewelers, the jewelers of kings. So they had a reputation of high-end, desirable luxury. And to think that they were a world-renowned brand and still remained with such low production numbers really lets you know a lot about the company. Like I said, it was really exclusive luxury. The most important of important people were allocated watches, if you will, during that time. So that's what makes this watch so special. Is it's pre-1970s. It is the exact year is 1968. So for that year, there were a little more than 600 watches produced total. The real influx was like 1965. Pre-1965, the production numbers were really low. From 1965 to 1969, they did get a lot larger, but nowhere near, 70s and beyond. So this one is encased in 18 karat yellow gold, obviously being a Tank Louis. It has French hallmarks. It was produced in France. It's powered by a Jaeger movement, which is just phenomenal to look at. I mean, looking at this thing it's just mesmerizing. The level of detail and attention to craftsmanship that they dedicated back then, all finished by hand. The hallmarks are extremely crisp, nice and deep, exactly what you want to see with these old vintage Cartiers. A lot of them tended to be over polished throughout the years. And really what I like about these vintage Cartiers is the dials. The printing looks like it was plastered on old newspaper of the time. The font is just screams nostalgia. The font just has this vintage vibe to it. You really get a different feel looking at these styles when you compare them to, even the tanks made in the 70s. And like I said, I'm really drawn to watches that are extremely rare, very difficult to find. I've said before how much I enjoy the thrill of the hunt. It is a really big part of this passion is finding these exceptionally rare watches, chasing them down. There's some excitement to that aspect of vintage watch collecting for me. It comes with its original deployment clasp, which is also, like I said, very difficult to find. It came on a really cool Cartier Paris strap. I don't think the strap was originally sold with the watch. These straps were made up until the 1990s approximately, and I really did like it, but it was too big for my wrist. And with these deployment clasps, you have to go out and get a custom-made strap. There is no adjustment component to it. It really does give a different presence on the wrist. Like I said, Cartier was so disliked for so long because They weren't considered high-end watchmaking, although if you find these Cartier tanks with the Jaeger movements or others, I mean, the movements are wonderfully finished. They look fantastic, and it's not like any other house, was always using in-house movements. We know Vacheron, we know Patek. They were both using JLC movements as well. But yeah, they had that negative connotation with them of being just a designer brand and really not, part of horological history, and that's just completely untrue. You don't have to be, watchmaking and technically oriented in order to be relevant in the vintage watch world. And now, what they've been disliked for so long, in terms of just being a designer, is what a lot of people started embracing. Their designs are timeless. They're classic. They've never been out of style. They'll never go out of style. You buy one and you can wear it at any time, dressed up, dressed down, and it's just never wrong. So having the clasp with it really does give it this bracelet-like feel, and it does add a luxury component to it that I personally really, really enjoy. So having to get that custom strap just adds to the whole allure of that is vintage Cartier.